Hi, it's Taylor. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. If you don't know me, I am Dr. Taylor Burrowes. I'm a retired mental health counselor and retired marriage and family therapist. And I now work as an online coach, consultant, and matchmaker. I'm going to do something different today. I want to talk to you mano a mano, so to speak. I want to process with you something I've been experiencing, and maybe you've experienced it too. It could help you. That would be my hope, just to be transparent about this, not breaching any confidences and not oversharing. But there sometimes is some confrontation or conflict that happens in the online space. And particularly in this instant that I'm referring to, it was someone that I worked with. And so when it's an anonymous person out there on social media, then it's a lot easier to distance yourself and detach yourself from the negativity and have that thick skin and be able to let it roll off your back. Absolutely. But the closer these people get to you, like if you keep having sort of confrontations with your mutuals on social media, or even if you have disgruntled clients. I mean, there's different layers to this. Like someone you have a one-off conversation with, they just don't like it. They say what they want to say. They don't like your content. They don't understand it. They accuse you of something. And this happens all the time. People are like trying to discredit everybody. And I remember this from so many different instances across the years, from different groups of people that didn't like what I have to say. But honestly, like the hardest one for me is the one that's happened more recently, and she may be watching this. I want to touch on this because I don't think anybody really talks about it. So any one of you may do some kind of helping, healing work. You may have clients and you develop a relationship with them. It's a working relationship, but it's a connection, right? And so the more you share with someone, the more time you spend with someone, even just working with them, it becomes relevant to you. They're not just an anonymous person out there in the World Wide Web ether, right? And so it becomes a betrayal when you feel misunderstood. And I know this goes both ways, right? Like you really just butt heads and you don't see eye to eye, then both people probably feel the same way. And it's very difficult to, you know, unravel the layers of misunderstandings. But speaking from myself solely, I just want to encourage all of you um, to have the core values and core principles that I practice and that I preach with everybody all the time. It's what everything that I do is based on, which is accountability, transparency, and integrity and honor and compassion and empathy and all of these things. But we're getting sidetracked. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world, granted, but we're getting sidetracked. Like if we think about this pendulum swinging, right? We keep getting caught up in this reactivity of one belief or another, a political agenda or another, progressivism and conservatism, and right or left, or head and heart, logic and feelings. And we need to stop being so reactive and extremist. We need to be nuanced. We need to contextualize our understanding of things. I mean, as someone who works online, I understand the necessity to market specifically to certain things, to create engagement, to have a voice, to create that audience. But in the actual work, what I do is very nuanced with people. So I do want to at least put that out there in case you were assuming that, you know, there's just a lot of hard lines in the work. There isn't. It's a lot of nuance that goes on, and every person is different. Every person has an energetic blueprint, different personality, and a different aspirational ideal self that they're setting themselves up to achieve. And so I have to customize my approach with everybody and take into consideration all the different opportunities and different obstacles and life events that happen in that person's life. And it's constant pivoting. But how we get distracted by these extreme views that are really just they're a way that we protect ourselves from really confronting what we need to do. They create a false sense of comfort. In this case, the more recent wave of content that I'm seeing out there is this emphasis on energy and vibes and intuition. And I absolutely 100% support these things. I have a strong esoteric, emotion focused element to my personality and the work that I do. And I talk about it, I think, from here, time to time, here and there, right? But I also have begun emphasizing logic and reason and objectivity because we lost it. Women, especially, we became so emotionally volatile that I've really emphasized that grounding piece so that we can achieve that healthy, integrated female persona. Not even like a persona, but the actual integrated lived experience of being happy and healthy and stable because we needed to balance out. But now what's happening is people are reacting to all of this drama and strife and hardship in the world, and they really want that positivism. And they're grabbing onto it and they're expanding it and getting really obsessed with this. It's becoming like a toxic positivity, right? So I really want to encourage everybody to be clear headed, to strive for that sweet spot, that golden middle, they say, right? Like it's where the pendulum calibrates in the middle, where it becomes a flow. It's a fluid and nuanced, grounded understanding of life, right? There's no fixed thing out there. And if you're really caught up in this, what your intuition is telling you and putting yourself first and your needs first, yes, self development is great. But you have to understand that you don't always know the best thing for you. A lot of times we're dealing with all of these defense mechanisms and confusions. We're motivated by different things, desires, avoiding pain, seeking pleasure, impulsivity. They all get wrapped up and warped into these ideas that influence our behavior towards things that are not healthy for us. So, making sure that you have that insight and clarity of what is real and what is aspirational, what is something that you just really want, something that really feels good. I talk about the difference between impulse and intuition a lot, but people are often just really centered on what they think being right and not understanding that they're one, it may not be right. You could potentially be wrong, but also there is a sense of reality. If you think that everything is subjective and everything is perspective, then nothing is real, which is a very dangerous place to be. So I encourage everyone to really consider, okay, fact from fiction, basically, or fact from what you want things to be, and being able to see things and create a life that is closer to what you want them to be, but accepting the reality of what they are. So they have to go hand in hand. You have to balance them. And it's a fine line, but if you think of it as binary, then it gets more difficult. Think of it as fluid. And you have to flux and flow with these ideas and concepts. Specifically, in my personal experience, I came head to head with someone who it was pretty much like a shock because I really didn't think that this would ever happen with this person. But they were holding so firmly to a belief that they had, in particular in this case, about me, and misunderstood me completely and based it all on their intuition, right? And so, what you need to understand is this is where perspective comes into play. You can have varied intuitions. My intuition may be telling me to turn left, your intuition could be telling you to turn right. That does not mean that you're right and I'm wrong and I should follow you, or vice versa. It means we should go our own separate ways because our intuitions are telling us to go in those particular directions. But to harbor any kind of animosity or any kind of righteousness that my way is right, that to me is where subjectivity really plays an important role. And so I encourage you to remember that this divine path is not meant to be divisive, right? And sometimes my energy doesn't mix with your energy. And that doesn't make you a bad person or me a bad person. It just means this doesn't feel like it's meant to be, and that's okay. And just be tactful and, maybe just remain objective in that moment. Um, but I see a lot of people trying to stake their claim on, this person is bad or evil, and my intuition is telling me this. So this also comes with this wave of, and I forget the name of the lady. She's a psychologist that I follow on Twitter, and she says such wonderful things. But she was remarking on how everybody has trauma is like the new participation trophy, and calling everything that doesn't fit for you, or someone that you don't like, or something that you don't agree with as toxic is like the new trend. And this is very, very dangerous. It's basically the opposite of what we were seeing before. And again, another reactionary wave that's happening, right? So we need to see that not everything is toxic, that we don't want, and that's not good for us. And disagreements don't necessarily mean someone has ulterior motives. And sometimes it is just a misunderstanding and a difference of choice, and that's okay. And I'm in the business of confrontation, so I'm constantly helping people manage confrontation with themselves in unraveling and releasing all of these wounds, all of this core shadow work, but also just with other people too, like how they manage conflict in their significant relationships, with their family, with their friends, and also with each other, because I do group work. And so there can be conflict or stress or tension, friction on various levels there. And so a lot of what I do is experiential learning. So it's learning in the moment, in relationship, whether with me. My intention is to help provide a corrective sort of parenting experience where I can help create secure attachments that are appropriate, but it's teaching someone through the experience of having that secure base in order to express oneself freely, to be vulnerable, transparent, and also have the assurance that we're going to get through it, and it's not going to make me think you're a bad person, but these are behaviors that are not healthy for you, and I steer you and guide you in a direction that we've already agreed on, based on that trust. And sometimes it goes out the window when people get scared, or they get sort of, I don't know what the word is, but they reject the process because it's too difficult, too maybe unfamiliar, it's dangerous in their mind because it's so revealing, like it's so exposing of themselves, right? Like they have to really see the world in themselves in a way that they've maybe been creating defenses around. And I get that. But in this case, I just got so hurt by the misunderstanding of my intentions, and I've been processing it. So over the past few weeks, a lot of these topics have been forefront in my mind because of this scenario. And the way that my brain works is that it's like I see things from a very zoomed out perspective, and I have these layers and tangents of things that I'm processing. And I'm always learning and self-correcting myself, right? Like in the way that I do my work, in the way that I filter my clients, in the way that I talk to people, whether it's, in work or online or just in general. Like I always want to be self improving and growing as a person and as a helper and healer. And so I take it on and I just refine, refine, refine. And I hope you see that about me. I definitely don't try to project that I'm perfect. I do not think that at all. But I do my best, and I am genuine and I am authentic, and I really do try my best at that. But I think a lot of times what happens is that people make a lot of assumptions, and they don't even realize that they're making these automatic assumptions, and they just build these stories around people, in this case about me, that are just not true. And online presence really does affect that. So you might see me as some kind of projection or character out there and not even realize it, because we are different in different circumstances. When you're playing a different role in one place versus another. And there was a particular example in my real life that really brought this to light. And I haven't shared it yet, just to Dennis, but maybe it will help as an example. So I was at my acupuncture appointment the other day, and the doctor who was performing the acupuncture, she was just so bright and bubbly, very sweet, but I could tell like she was really trying to have good rapport with her patient and having good bedside manner. So she's like, tell me about your weekend and how do you feel? And like going through the steps of what she needs to check in. But she was asking these pointed questions to make me feel comfortable and, just be polite. But then I didn't ask her about her weekend and how did she feel. Like I didn't respond in that way because this is a particular context where a certain role is being played and it's appropriate and it's healthy. I am the patient. She is the doctor, right? We're not friends. We can be friendly and warm and affectionate with each other. And she's not being fake. She's being a real doctor. That's what a real, healthy, appropriate doctor does. And a healthy, appropriate patient, in that case, me, doesn't ask a whole bunch of personal questions about her. I mean, I might be polite and say, I hope you had a good weekend. How was your holiday? But if she's appropriate, she will keep it to a minimum because she's playing a role. She's not best friend. She's not daughter. You know what I mean? Like, it's just different. And so this was a really good opportunity for me to be like, aha, now I can explain this a little bit more in some of my content that I'm putting out there. And sometimes people assume, like they get attached to this character that they project of me, and they think that I am someone familiar to them. Even if I'm working with you for a year, I get it, but that's not me as my personal self. We're not best friends. Like the way that I am with a best friend is different than the way that I am with someone I'm working with, even for a year or 2 years or 4 years. I have clients that I've worked with for years, and we're not friends, but we're friendly, and they know a good fair bit about me, but it's different. And I show up differently in those roles. Totally appropriate and healthy. And I ascribe to that. And I tell you to ascribe to that because I believe with my whole heart that this is healthy. This does not take away from your authenticity or your genuineness or your realness or your vibes. You still got vibes. These are two different things, right? And this is where I was going off on Twitter the other day because I was explaining like people don't understand what vibes are. Vibes are not just good and bad, right? Like if you have the diagram of like high and low vibes, it's all about the different emotions having a different frequency. And the higher the frequency, the healthier and more powerful the emotion, right? Or the vibes. And I get that. But there's also volume. And if you think of it more as like on that sound system, right? It's like I forget, equalizer. It's an equalizer. And you have to see these things as fluid. And in different roles and different circumstances, you're going to adjust your vibrations. Yes, you have a core, authentic, very raw version of yourself that should be saved for your most intimate people and relationships. But you're not going to be all of that all the time and just out there with everybody. And that's totally okay. So I get what people are trying to say. When people are sneaky or toxic or negative or like they're saboteurs or succubus, incubus. Like I get that. That totally exists and I believe in it. But they're misunderstanding these concepts and they're projecting them into situations that are just not the case. So we need to figure this out and start to steer ourselves and our understanding and self-awareness into this more objective framework. It's not all about logic, and emotions matter, but you have to have both. And the joy of life is figuring out that equilibrium on your own, because we all are different. But just try not to feed these stories because they're dangerous. That's basically it and what I wanted to share with you today. But I do appreciate you watching this video and hopefully caring about what I'm saying. I think it's important to be transparent, but at the same time, I also think it's important to be a professional, and that's something that I bring to the table. I have a PhD. I am an expert in relationships. I'm not just a life coach or a relationship coach, dating coach, or whatnot. Like, I have a sense of professionalism that's going to feel different, and it brings integrity to my work. But I also have the very sort of real side of me too, and I'm able to present that and be as open as I can be. And I hope that the right people are attracted to that in an appropriate way, and that we're able to connect and do good things. Even if I never talk to you one-to-one, I hope that these videos benefit you and that I help you succeed in life, even from a distance. That makes me feel very rewarded. And just let me know what topics you like, what sort of questions you have. I'm happy to do my best to answer them. So I'll stop here for today, and hopefully you will subscribe for more and let me know the kinds of things you would like to hear from me. I'd be happy to expand on them in future videos. Ciao for now.